You are watching us live here at Humans TV Africa. My name is Katum Mukasa, and in the studio to do the production is our colleague Brian Akabeko, based in Kenya. And of course, today, being Saturday, we have our guest, our panelist, and of course, our colleague in the studio from the Consumer Protection Unit, Consumer Advocacy Team, Mr. Kimera Henry, based in Uganda. You're going to be watching us live here at Humanist TV Africa. We are a non-government organization registered as Humanist Media Africa. We are registered to do exactly the work we do, to promote information, knowledge, empower our people, and make sure that at least we get Africa and the world to a better level where people take informed decision, where people empower each other, and of course where we can all escape poverty. Now we continue to handle the major issue of the month. We are looking at digital finance and shall be able to handle it today with our expert in the studio. Let us welcome Mr. Kimera. But before that, I want to encourage you to please keep on subscribing to Humans TV Africa, our network in Ghana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Uganda, Kenya, Malawi, and of course the UK and the US. We encourage you to continue subscribing to Humans TV Africa. Mr. Kimera, you are most welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kato, and it is a pleasure. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, global consumers. It is once again a pleasure to be with you as we once again bring another consumer advocacy, consumer protection, and consumer agenda program. Colleagues, once again, I would like also, as usual, to thank Kato and your team. Today, it is an honor to have Brian as our producer and always to have Dennis as our producer. And we are greatly honored to be with you. Consumers globally, we are greatly honored always to add at least a block to try to make your life of good quality. And today we are in part 2 of digital finance services. We are looking at the benefits and then the vagaries in the ecosystem of digital finance. So today we'll be doing a recap of where we started as we are in our fourth in the series. We started with what digital finance is, how it links with our consumer rights and responsibilities, what actions are needed or what responsibilities are needed.
Yes, right there. We want to encourage you to please continue. You are going to excuse us. Remember, we are doing this show live. This is a live broadcast. We don't record this show. So when you see a hiccup in our network, please do understand. Mr. Henry Kimera is in the studio. He's going to be giving us a recap of what we covered in part 1. Please go ahead, Mr. Kimera.
Thank you very much, Kato. Once again, we thank all our producers, our hosts, and then our listeners, plus all the aspects that you share with us. The recap is, we started with the first in the series of our series on the digital financial services. We started how they affect and they impact on our lives. We looked at it as an essential, not a privilege, but an essential aspect of humanity today. Globally, they are consumers with phones over 5 billion that have smartphones and others that have got non-smartphones. that access services of digital finance, others directly or indirectly. So why we bring it onto the series, we want the digital finance to be fair to the consumers. I want to recap and say that the consumers, we are the biggest socioeconomic grouping. Without us, there is no digital finance. And if it is there because of us, the consumers, then it must be fair. It must be genuine. It must be there to serve us as consumers. We'll appreciate the digital finance ecosystem touches every aspect of the consumer life. So it is very key that you get to know the benefits and the risks that are entailed in there. In the series, we looked at our rights and responsibilities as consumers with regards to digital finance. In the second, in the series, we looked at different roles and different aspects. Third, in the series, we looked at actions needed to realize the benefits of digital financial services and the entire digital ecosystem. And this is the second part in the series of the part 3, but now it is the 4th. And today we are still going to look at actions. And I would say today we are honored to host the head of Fair Digital Finance Accelerator at Consumers International. She will be sharing with us the aspects from the global world, the Global Consumer Federation, the Consumers International, what they are doing, and with its members and consent, happens to be or is a proud member of Consumers International. So we join hands today to share with you, and at an appropriate time, I will be sharing with you her video, and thereafter I will also dig into how we conclude on actions needed to realize the benefits of digital finance services and in whatever area we are in globally. So we'll appreciate that the benefits are immense, or they are many, but also the risks, where the deep fakes, where aspects are coming in with AI, where there are fraud, where there are scams, where there is infrastructure challenges, where there is customer care challenges. All these, we will need to address them. And I would like to pick up from what Kato closed up last week by saying, in all your countries, you need to start picking up, form consumer groupings, form advocacy organizations, speak up to the authorities, reach out to the service providers to ask them to provide you fair digital finance. And all of you who are, wherever if you do not have a consumer organization or an advocacy organization, wake up and speak up and reach out so that you get fair digital finance. With that said, I would like to hand over the mic to Kato so that he can lead us into the proceedings of today.
Thank you so much, Sebo. Thank you so much for that introduction. And of course, happy to have another expert to introduce, to share with us. Of course, I want to remind our viewers that we have been here to talk about issues that affect consumers that we normally don't get a chance to talk about. We talked about issues to do with banking, for example. How many of us know the contracts we sign with the banks and how effective and how they can affect us in case of getting problems. We talked about money laundering in one of our episodes, and we talked about the dangers of having that money being washed to make it clean. And of course, we talked about how our governments, especially in Africa, are very reluctant to handle issues to do with dirty money. Today, we all have smartphones. if I may say, those in the middle class, the elites, have smartphones. And what are we doing with the smartphones? It means that we are making transactions worth millions of shillings using the phone. And when you are using this phone, you don't know how secure it is. So this is digital financing in a nutshell. Of course, in the villages, we have seen how people are using mobile money to do transactions, to do agriculture, to connect to families. Now, because we are having so much to do with digital financing, money is changing. As we said earlier on, now that basically traditional banking is even collapsing in a way that now people are using more digital platforms, such as mobile money banking, to do transactions than going to a traditional bank. I don't remember when I last used my bank in Uganda to do transactions. I should say this because right now where I am, I'm using a mobile money platforms. I'm no longer using my bank account to do transactions. At least in Uganda, if I have to send any money, I'm going to use a digital platform. I'm going to use a mobile money. But how secure is this? What if I sent money and the line had been stolen? How am I going to recover this kind of money? So these are issues we look at as consumers keenly in an environment where we have so many scammers, pyramid schemes, people losing money every day. So we bring in experts to tell us our rights, to tell us the obligations we have, because rights come with duties and obligations to sharpen our thinking, to awaken us up to avoid falling prey to scammers. So, Mr. Kimela, I'm going to invite you to take us through the presentation of our guest today, and we start it from there.
Thank you, Kato. Thank you very much, Kato, for that extra recap. And hereby, Lord Sheila's presentation, Sheila's pre-recorded video. And like I said, Sheila, she's the head of Fair Digital Finance at Consumers International. It's a program that is leading to Fair Digital Finance Accelerator to make sure that consumers globally, their voice is heard and they get fair digital finance. So you're most welcome to listen to Shira.
I think this is really a critical topic in terms of realizing what is needed to realize the benefits of digital financial services, but also generally how the entire ecosystem can benefit from the different actions that different players play within the ecosystem. So my name is Sheila Semfuma, and I'm the head of program from Consumers International for digital finance. And one of the things that I oversee is the Fair Digital Finance Accelerator. And the accelerator is a network of over 60 consumer associations from low and middle income countries that have come together to work collaboratively with businesses, regulators, policymakers to come up with solutions that are consumer centric to ensure that consumers have safe, fair, sustainable, and data protected consumer digital financial services. And Consumers International is a global body that represents consumer organizations from over 100 countries. And we have a membership of over 200 consumer associations that all come together to fight for the benefits and the rights of consumers globally. In terms of the topic for today, really, this is a topic that's critical to me because all around the world, consumers, in everything we do, finance is like an underlying framework to everything we do, whether it's around food, on how we purchase food, whether it's energy, or the energy choices we have and how we can access them, whether it's around sustainable consumption, whether it's around energy, you name it, really, finance plays a key role. And digital financial services in particular play even a bigger role because now with the environment changing, there is a lot happening within the space. So I think for me, some of the key things, really, starting with the first one, was really critical to make the digital finance ecosystem benefit everyone, is collaboration. And this isn't just like a one-off or maybe regulators by themselves with businesses or regulators with consumer associations, or businesses with regulators, but really all the key players, including businesses, civil society, regulators and policymakers, fintechs, unexpected players within the ecosystem, funders, that really everyone coming together to collaborate in their different capacities to ensure that they play their part in ensuring that consumers are protected. For digital finance, it's particularly key because with different things happening at a very volatile speed, it's critical that, we don't work in silos. And that includes regulators coming up with regulations that are consumer centric, but also regulations that are informed by evidence from the consumer movement, evidence from industry, evidence from their own research, and also learnings from their peers, like peer-to-peer learning, to ensure that most of the regulations or policies put in place are founded on core principles happening globally. For example, the OECD high-level principles protection, other countries that have come up with different principles and frameworks that are supporting digital financial consumer protection policies to ensure that we learn from each other, that you don't start from scratch if your country is needing a particular a framework to fill in a particular gap within digital finance. So I'd say the first part is really collaboration, but within the overall stakeholder network, not just in silos, but different stakeholders coming together to realize change. The other key thing for me is really setting up of standards, and this could be leveraging international standards, but also, like, let's say consumer organizations are coming up with key guidelines on what they believe should be key in ensuring consumers are protected. And for Consumers International, we've come up with standards on buy now, pay later products. We've come up with standards on transparency, calling for better understanding or clearer knowledge and information given to consumers within digital finance, whether it's clear contract terms, whether it's language that's clear for consumers to understand, whether it's using less complex language, whether it's around really listening to consumers and providing information in a way that they can be able to interpret it, understand it, and make informed decision. So it's critical that these guidelines are put in place to support policymakers or even businesses to come up with solutions that are consumer centric and for the good of the consumers, so that consumers can benefit or have their financial well-being improved through the access of digital financial services, and thereby keep utilizing them, which will really benefit everyone within the ecosystem. That consumers get to benefit from the advantages of digital finance, like access, easier access, cheaper services sometimes, or tailored solutions to themselves, but also that there are protections in place to protect them, but also the other players like the consumer advocacy organizations are playing a role, like awareness campaigns to ensure that consumers are aware of any upcoming risks within the space, but that they also know how to protect themselves. So I think that would be really critical for us in particular to ensure that we benefit from the ecosystem. The other would be around really having digital financial elements, digital financial services elements incorporated within national development plans. And nowadays, lots of countries are coming up with national development plans. I think Uganda is like on the third plan iteration, and within that it's critical that we have components of the digital finance incorporated, whether it's around protections, whether it's around what's needed for financial inclusion, whether it's around demand side or supply side frameworks that have to be in place, or critical items that have to be in place around infrastructure, around financial inclusion, around engaging with vulnerable groups, all these being incorporated within the national development plans, so that even as budgets are being put in place, consumers or digital financial elements are not left out. I think for me that's critical as well. And then it's critical to have advisory boards within the digital finance that are inclusive. And this speaks a little bit to the point I made around cross collaboration. With this, it ensures that different players are all contributing to policy discussions that are aimed at protecting consumers within the space. And this creates also opportunities for learnings, for sharing evidence, because everyone collects different data, to ensure that all this is leveraged to ensure better outcomes for consumers within digital finance. So I think this is really critical, ensuring that there are committees that are not also like happening in a one-off format, but that they are systemic, that they're regular, that they're structured, that this is something that's ongoing to ensure that the digital finance ecosystem really is progressing and really improving with time, to ensure that we don't relax, that and that every change that comes up is really triggered towards improving consumer outcomes, but also that different players benefit from each other's insights to ensure that it's improving for everyone across the board. I think finally, what really critical as well is ensuring that within the space there is regular monitoring, and this can be done by different bodies. Really, it could be the regulator, market conduct authorities, it could be businesses in their feedback plans, it could be the consumer organizations through the complaints that they generate. So through these different mechanisms, I think it's critical that there is a regular pulse check within the ecosystem so that things do not escalate into affecting a large number of consumers, especially if it's like arising risks or existing risks that are now being opened up because of digital finance. So it's critical that there is a continuous pulse check to understand what's happening in the market. Are the consumer needs changing? Is it the same? Are the old solutions still working, or we need to improve them? So this is really critical to ensure that even as the ecosystem evolves, that the different players within the ecosystems are evolving with it. And for me, all these are critical to ensure that everyone benefits from the ecosystem, whether it's around regulators ensuring that the policies they put in place are beneficial and realizing the impact in place and making the most of the budgets allocated to them, but the businesses are also getting the right information that will enable them to get more customers to sustain their clients and have happy clients. And also for consumers that they are benefiting from the advantages digital finance avails, while also the donors are seeing value for money, while consumer associations are seeing their work realize its fruition, whether it's around creating awareness campaigns or their advocacy efforts, that all around the ecosystem, everyone is benefiting and that we are leveraging each other's strengths to ensure that digital finance is protection is accelerated and that the consumers benefit from what the ecosystem offers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kato?
Yes, please. I'm grateful to Sheila for such an elucidative. I'm very, very happy to hear what Sheila has been sharing. She's very, very, very informative and, of course, spot on a number of issues she has raised. Sheila, our viewers, we are hearing the voice of Sheila. She's the Fair Digital Finance Accelerator at Consumer International. Sheila said a few things which are very important to note. Of course, she has raised the issue of regulation and monitoring. And I was wondering, in countries like Uganda, we have organizations like UBOS, and we have organizations, of course, that are being given taxpayers' money to do this work. How far are these organizations doing their work? And what's the role of Consumer International, for example, in seeing that the regulator, the main regulator, does the work? Because sometimes there is a chance that people are sleeping on their duties. So I don't know whether Mr. Kimera may maybe come with a ride on that and then get to know how it's being done.
First, I will apologize that I have the video, but it's only voice that managed to come in. But what I will do is that we'll see how best we can upload the video on the Humanist TV Africa, so that the viewers and listeners would also get clear rather than getting the audio, because I tried several times to upload the video or present the video, but I think it didn't work out technically. So having said that, and Kato, I would like to thank you very much for the quick question and challenge that you have put. First and foremost, I would like to thank Sheila very, very much. She has elaborated and laid out a number of things and raising issues that can be game changers, not only in Uganda, but globally. So having said that, and the question you have put to me, that we have got competent authorities, we have got regulators, what are they doing? I would like to start by giving a little history that mobile money started with telecoms as telecom companies, and regulations started in UCC and discussing with Bank of Uganda and other players. So having gone through the transition since 2009 and coming when all challenges started, the discussions with the different regulatory agencies, you'll find that issues to do with digital are in different regulatory agencies or different ministries, departments, and agencies. So there were a number of discussions getting together to look at the challenges in the sector. So eventually, different guidelines, different standards, regulations were brought on board, and some were implemented. I'll give you an example, like you say, the Bureau of Standards. Currently, there are around about 25 standards that are focusing on financial services, and an element of digital finance comes in, like 25 standards that need to be, that are cutting across the financial sectors, banking, you'll find them in mobile money, you'll find them in insurance, you'll find them in other sectors. So digital financing coming in with the different and taking the center stage, given its big ecosystem, government came up with another act right during COVID and right after COVID. There is the National Payment Systems Act and other regulations that which also has some consumer protection elements. And these coming into place, it led to removing the aspect of mobile money fully now from the dockets of, let's say, the Communications Commission as the regulator for the communication companies or the telecoms who are providing that services, and they had to form other companies that are doing aspects of mobile money or money transfers and so forth. So these companies are formed, like you would say that there is Uganda, there is MTN mobile money, there is Airtel business, which is running the mobile money business. So they are kind of detached from the mobile telecoms and now are regulated by the central bank. So these are some of the actions. And that put in place, they are now processes to see to it that regulations protecting consumers in regards to digital finance are in place and they are implemented. Then there are also other guidelines that were there before, like the Financial Consumer Protection Guidelines are going under review, and some of these initiatives are continuously going on. I like the element that Shira brought, that countries have got development plans, and Uganda currently, we have NDP 3, the National Development Plan 3, which is coming to the end, and the government has come up with the National Development Plan for strategic directives, and elements of digital finance are in there. So what we need to do as stakeholders in Uganda is to make sure that we put in aspects that are affecting consumers realizing the benefits of digital finance, all that are facing the challenges of digital finance. We can use, I'll use the example of consent. harvests complaints, and complaints that we harvest are in different services and goods. But one of the services that we have received consumer complaints are about digital finance. And so far, we have around about 8,000 complaints, which we have synthesized and are sharing with the respective regulatory agencies to make sure that consumer concerns are addressed. That said, many other initiatives are put in place, like the Office of Personal Data Protection Office, which requires different players who access consumer data or who access data, how to use it, how to process it, and protect it. Like the organization I work for, because we collect data, we have to register with a regulatory agency, which with the Personal Data Protection Office, to get to follow the guidelines, how we use the data we collect and how we protect it and how we process it. We have to gradually and regularly inform the office. And this is under the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. There is the National IT the authority, NITAU, under which this office is. And then the other players, like we mentioned, UCC, still have a role to play with data, but they all come together and discuss different aspects. I would like to say that now, what you asked, what Consumers International, the role it plays, like Shira said, and like she said, that Consumers International is the Federation of Consumer Organizations. So the different consumer organizations globally have come out with consumer voices, which Consumers International has put together. And under different initiatives globally, Consumers International goes to the global platforms and then bring out the consumer issues and advocate for global digital regulatory frameworks, which frameworks other countries can pick up. It goes to UNCTAD. They've spoken about aspects to do with digital finance, because under UNCTAD, the United Nations Consumer Protection Guidelines are being rolled out, and they bring as UNCTAD, as the United Nations for Trade and Development, is the UN body which is overseeing the rolling out of different governments to see to it that they comply with consumer protection protocols, or that they signed up back in 1985, that have been continuously being improved on, amended to address consumer issues, and digital finance was added to those the UN Consumer Protection Guidelines. So Consumers International takes on the global center stage to bring consumer voices in those areas. In ISO, the International Standard Organization, there is a Consumer Policy Committee. So Consumers International goes in there and raises consumer concerns. And even when they are developing the ISO standards on financial services, some of the aspects of consumer voices are taken on board. So, and like also in the OECD, like Shira mentioned, so the voices of consumers too, using Consumers International, are taken on board. Nationally, like last week, we were talking of actions that are needed to be taken so that we realize the benefits of financial services. You recall there were segments where I was saying governments have got these two roles to play, the service providers have got these roles to play. Then also mentioned consumer associations or consumer organizations. Now, members of Consumers International are given guidance, advocacy, guidelines using the international and global experience by Consumers International so that they advocate locally and engage with the regulators, engage with the service providers using the best practices, using the frameworks that that are observed internationally. So Consumers International, like Shira mentioned, currently is running a fair digital finance accelerator project where countries have got case studies and countries are reviewing or using consumer experiences, reviewing national frameworks to bring in the consumer voices and bring in elements that are needed to make sure that there is digital finance. So members of Consumers International are doing it by engaging, advocating with government, regulators, and service providers to provide fair digital finance and using all the aspects that Shira mentioned in her presentation or her sharing. So Consent 2 is now playing a role. We are using the consumer complaints. And this is where I was saying earlier, and I mentioned in the series, actions that need to be taken by consumer organizations, by consumers themselves, and through partnership. We are using the global experiences through Consumers International to look at the regulations in Uganda and vis-a-vis the consumer complaints, looking at standards vis-a-vis the consumer complaints and say, why, if these are in place, why are these challenges continuously going on? Is it that the infrastructure, the service provision, the laws, the regulations are not effectively implemented? Or is it that the consumers do not know where to complain? Or is it that we have got the laws, but they are not effectively implemented? All these are the discussions that we are looking at. And I hope with all these discussions, other countries, other consumers, wherever they are, they can use such experiences, like using the elements that Shira has put on table, like Consent bringing in the Ugandan experience. We can see to it that the digital finance ecosystem in all other countries, consumers, consumer organizations can start advocating and asking and campaigning to see to it.
Yes, to chip in there, you are spot on that discussion. I think I'll use your last statement when you are asking, is it the regulator, is it the consumer, is it the service provider? I think it's a cocktail of all that. It's a combination of all the actors, either deliberately not doing their work or others not knowing what to do. Now, the regulators, the regulators such as Bank of Uganda, how is he managing to ensure that mobile money banking in Uganda is more effective? And you look at now organizations that are supposed to be the watchdogs of these organizations, these companies, and sometimes getting biased, sometimes getting corrupted. So we have to borrow lessons from Kenya, from Tanzania, from Malawi, from Zimbabwe, from Zambia. What are other countries doing to empower digital platform users, people using digital finance, to empower them to avoid making the mistakes that many are already making and sliding into poverty? People are losing their monies through these digital platforms. They are losing their capital through these digital platforms. There are many scammers, online scammers. How do we help people to avoid cyber attacks through online scamming? Your password, losing your password, just through cyber threats, cyber terror attacks. How do we protect the consumer to avoid getting into trouble, losing all the money? How sure are we that these finance provider platforms are secure and safe, especially for the elites, but also for the semi-educated and also the illiterate? So we are looking at these issues at a global perspective. We want to safeguard our listener, our viewer, from losing money. Because consumer advocates, like Mr. Kimera here, their work as consumer advocates are to protect the consumer. The interest is not to protect the service provider. The service provider is out there to make a kill, to make money. The interest of consent Uganda is to protect the consumer, because everyone wants to get money from the consumer. Therefore, protects the consumer. If the consumer gets a raw deal, how are they protected? Are the laws there? If they are there, are they effective? So this is why we have such conversations here with Mr. Kimera here and the team. We have been having hosts from Kenya. We had Kenya on the team here. You had people from all over Africa. We have been able to get guests all over Africa, and of course Europe and beyond, to discuss this matter. Now, as we go into the final wrap of this discussion, I want to invite Mr. Kimera to give us key benchmarks, key highlights that we can look out for to ensure that we have fair ways of doing transactions using the digital platforms we have. So what do we do? What must we do to be sure that we are safe doing digital finance services? Over to you, Mr. Chimera. As I told you, this is a live show. Sometimes we have technical hiccups because of the internet between our countries. But of course, Mr. Chimera is going to be responding to us. We are looking for how do we now transit from lamentation into protection? How do we now, what are the takeaways?
And I'm sorry for the technical glitch that was there, but I trust.
Please continue. Please continue. We are listening and we are watching.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. What we need to do as we embrace the digital finance ecosystem, consumers, we need to take on our responsibilities. These ones we need to continuously.
Yes, we are having some technical issues there, but of course we shall be done with that very soon. Of course, we are looking at the takeaways. We have been talking about digital financing, and of course now we remember as a recap of the consumer responsibilities that we must know as consumers. Thank you, Brian, for that reminder. We have critical awareness, of course, responsibility to be more alert and questioning about the price and quality of goods and services. So these are the issues the responsibility of a consumer must have. Number two, we must take action. We must have these responsibilities. Take action, be responsible, and be assertive as a consumer to ensure that we get a fair deal. Of course, our social concerns being a responsibility to be aware of the impact of our consumption on other citizens, especially disadvantaged or powerless groups, whether in the local, national, or international community. We must be concerned with the consumption. How does it affect our people? Of course, environmental awareness is so important. Whatever we are doing, is it protecting the environment? What are the consequences of what we do? Is it going to affect the environment today, tomorrow? We must also work in solidarity as consumer responsibility. Number 5, we must work in solidarity with others, organize together as consumers to develop strength and influence to promote and protect our interests. We must be in solidarity. Do not say it doesn't concern me, because at the end of the day, whatever is happening in the markets may affect a banker, may affect someone in the NGO sector, may affect a politician. Today, Mr. Kimera, as you come in, I was watching current news in Uganda, and I realized that in Kitezi, a place where they dump rubbish from the capital city, they have been dumping there for years without minding about the people in those places. These are consumers. People consume these products, and then the waste is dumped in Kitezi. Today, as we speak, the dumping site, because of the rains, has become a problem, because now the waters have driven all the dirt into people's homes and covering homes, and there are reports of people dying. Now, these are consumer issues. People are eating whatever they are doing, they are eating, and then the waste is put somewhere in a place that is having people. And the waste, first of all, is dangerous to the people because of the omission, the air emitted from it. But also, by virtue of being in that place, it is being eroded by rain, and then it is killing people. Now, the consumer is dying because of the negligence of the KCCA, the Kampala Capital City Authority, not doing their work. So over to you. As the protector of the consumer, this must be something very, very challenging to all of us watching news from Uganda. Now, I was asking for your recap. No, for your highlights as we move forward. I brought in Kitezi as something that has just happened in Uganda to show you and the viewers, of course, why consumers must be active. Because for all these years, the Kitezi people have never had a demonstration to say, stop dumping this stuff here, or come and ban it, or come and remove it from here. They have been quiet. Now today, we see people dying. I was telling a colleague here that, look, in Uganda, we die from curable diseases.
Yes.
We die from accidents that can be avoided. Accidents can be avoided. We die from such accidents. Why? Because we are either weak, of course we are, our voices don't count, but also the politicians, the policy makers don't care about the consumer and about the people. So over to you, Mr. Kimera, as we wind up this show.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kato, and it is absurd, and condolences to you. You'll find that in a country like Uganda, we have got nearly everything that can safeguard consumers. I would say that we have got frameworks that are in for disaster preparedness, that are in that in case of emergencies, what needs to be done, and what tragedy you've talked about, where garbage, or let's say landslide, but we'll call it a garbage slide because it is all it is the garbage that has been dumped there for years, and initiatives and aspects to relocate the garbage dumping have prolonged, and you'll find that issues that affect consumers, citizens, and at times not priority, are secondary. You'll recall, like we have said in all the series, like we started in January, I've kept on saying quality of governance leads to a quality of consumer life, leads to the quality of happiness, leads to the quality of production and productivity of citizens. So consumer protection is a good measure for governance. Consumer protection shows good governance. Now that consumers in Chitezi have raised now and then as their responsibility about the dangers and the vagaries of garbage being dumped and not managed well, this has now led to the catastrophes where fatalities are not yet known, but there is a need to hold those that are in governance responsible. It is that you have led us through the consumer responsibilities. I pray that it is true, like you have said, consumers in Chitezi over years have done their responsibility, speaking up, raising social concern. They have done their action, have been critical towards the way the garbage management is being done. And in solidarity now. But unfortunately, given poor governance, they have not been listened to. And it is very sad. So that said, this leads us back to our final leg on actions needed to realize fair digital finance. We will need to play our roles like consumers. These services are done for us to access, and we need to access them by speaking out where we see things are not working out. We need to embrace the digital finance, being critical aware. We need to embrace digital finance by taking action when things are not correct. We need to embrace digital finance by being socially concerned, not to say that now they have cheated my neighbor, it's none of my business. Your neighbor today, and it will be you tomorrow. So we need to be socially concerned then these things are coming. We need, every system talks about the digital finance environment. It needs not to be polluted by fakes. It needs not to be polluted by scams, fraud. The digital finance environment needs clear regulations, needs clear frameworks, needs quality infrastructure that will encourage consumers to access it and have the benefits. In that digital finance environment needs regulations to penalize those that do wrong to consumers. It needs to facilitate better business of digital finance, that environment. And through solidarity, as consumers, we can turn around the digital finance by speaking out on our rights and also acting on our responsibilities. I would like to conclude by using the message Kato gave us last Saturday, that it is our right to basic needs, but it is also very important that as consumers, if we have consumer organizations in our countries and are not effectively championing our safety, there is a need to bring them, or we come up with other consumer organizations that will give us information, that will represent us, that will speak out, that will call for redress, that will give us consumer education, that will champion for choice, and that will make sure that the environment we are operating in as our right to a healthy environment, the environment is healthy, and we make sure that we speak out and join them, and we make the environment and digital finance environment safe, where we can get redress so that they do not cheat us. We have got trust and confidence in the ecosystem. So I would like to thank Kato, to thank Brian, to thank Dennis in absentia, and our guest today, who was Sheila at Consumers International. Thank you very much. And we'll make sure that we upload the video so that we continuously pick up and we use your wise counsel to make sure that the digital finance ecosystem is fair and it is serving consumers better. So thank you very much for today's show and looking forward to next week's show. Thank you very much, Kato.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chimera, for always being here to share with us and, of course, to teach us one thing or two. Remember, I always say I'm a student for life, always willing to learn something new. But, of course, I know also our viewers keep on learning one or two or three things from your show, from your advocacy. And this is what we can do as Humans TV Africa. We are always there to share information, learn from each other, empower each other, and this is why we are a registered charity to do this work. I want to encourage our viewers to please do one thing for us: do subscribe. Do subscribe. You can see the hand right there is Humans TV Africa. Please subscribe and share this information with yours. We don't do sensational kind of shows. We do informative. We do educative. We want to empower people through giving them what they need from other social media networks. I want to thank so much Team Humans TV Africa in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Uganda, Zimbabwe, Kenya, of course, the other countries that are sharing our shows live. Thank you so much, of course, Brian from Kenya, for sure, producing this show today, and of course, Dennis in absentia and the entire team we work with. Please keep in touch and keep your hope alive. See you in the next show. Bye-bye.